Well, hello, hello, hello. It's another month of some great career experts. And this month we have Andrea Caldwell. Now, Andrea comes from a long line of training and facilitation, and she is a perfect fit for this month's topic. So I'm just going to read her bio really quickly, and then we'll jump right in. All right, Andrea Caldwell has worked in the automotive, industrial supply, data storage, and marketing services industry. She has over 20 years of experience in employee development, sales management, and has had the opportunity to create, launch, and facilitate many development programs. Andrea's passion is coaching others to their full potential, helping them achieve results they wouldn't have otherwise thought possible. She has had responsibility for performance management along with the oversight and rollout of talent management systems. Andrea has worked with all levels of leadership, global audiences, and holds facilitator certifications from multiple leadership content providers. Thank you so much for joining us. That bio does not even speak to all the things that she has done. And we are here to talk to this month's topic is leading with humility versus ego. So thank you so much. I read your bio, but please tell us about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this. So, as you mentioned, I currently work with Franklin Covey. I'm a managing consultant with Franklin Covey, and we really help organizations achieve results that require lasting, and collective behavior change. So that's really a passion for me, is really driving that behavior change and really guiding people to insights. So that's a little bit about what I do professionally. On the personal side, married, 3 adult children, recent empty nester. So yeah, excited there. Good timing on that. And business owner. So just a lot going on, but good stuff.
Good. Well, Franklin Covey, been around for years. To me, the creme de la creme of leadership, of training, of organization. So amazing, amazing. So glad that you're able to spend a little bit of time with us. Now, life has changed drastically for many of us that are working. And in that change, do you think that leadership has changed over the years?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like the question would be easier to ask what hasn't changed, right? Because I think there are so many new challenges facing leaders these days. So everything from, being required to do more with less, virtual work environments. So we have a lot of people that are dealing with hybrid teams that they're working with. You may have heard the Great Resignation. Quiet quitting is out there, more generations in the workplace than ever before. So having to learn how to, adjust to different types of, personalities and generations that are in the workplace. And really even just the shift from what used to be that more command and controls type of leadership, do what I say because I said it, versus people that want to be inspired and people that really want to feel trusted, and have trust extended to them. So I think there's a lot more that leaders are juggling today than what they were even 5 years ago.
Wow. I didn't even think about the multi-generations, right? And, we hear so many things about everyone has a complaint about every generation, but we are all working together and trying to figure it all out in a world that is drastically changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the relationship between leadership and the ego can be a thin line. The ego is best described as an unhealthy belief in our own importance. Now, I believe this importance for leadership, it's important for leaders to possess in order to inspire people to follow. Yet, when that ego gets out of hand, then the ego becomes the enemy of good leadership. When I say that, what comes to mind? So the ego becomes the enemy of good leadership.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind when you say that is that it's not about you, right? I'm not saying you, but a leader.
Right.
When a leader has that thought or that thinking that it's about me and what I need and what I'm trying to drive here, that's the first mistake. When there's that lack of humility and that ego gets in the way of what we're trying to do. And if you think about it, how people are usually tapped for leadership, they're usually tapped for leadership because they are the genius, right? Or because they have these great skills. And so it's difficult sometimes for leaders when they transition into leadership to recognize that, okay, this intelligence and this genius got you here, but now we need to draw that out of other people. It's kind of hard to stop being the sage on the stage and being the one that has all the answers and shifting and learning how to pull it out of other people and unleash others' potential.
Yes, I can only imagine that transition, to get to that role, it's about you. And then you got to flip that off,
Yes,
right?
and all of a sudden it's not about you anymore.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
believe without a proper coaching, I do think that middle managers, especially, they don't get enough coaching
Mhm.
enough times because they have to make that transition pretty hard.
Can I say something here though? Because
Yes,
there's
always
an
jump
interesting
in.
there's an interesting statistic that goes to what you just said. Do you know what the average number of years that passes between when somebody first moves into leadership and when they actually get leadership training? And I'm not talking about, this is how you use the performance management system. I'm talking about true leadership skills. You know what the average number of years?
No.
12 years.
12 years?
12 years. So
You
to
mean
your
lives
point,
ruined?
12 years. So to your point, there are a subset of leaders that are sitting there right now that have been leading and have not received any formal training. And then they've got their employees like, why are you like this? Well, nobody's ever taught them differently. So they've either adopted the habits of a previous manager or they're just trying to figure it out as they go along.
12 years is
12 years.
insane.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen it. I've had bad managers. We might have to bring you back for a whole new session on leaders because I don't
Yeah.
think why Franklin Covey is available, right? But I've seen it. I've heard horror stories of managers, and at the end of the day, it's really sad because they probably just did not have the training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Very true.
Now, how do you become a learn-it-all leader and not a know-it-all leader? So I guess the same thing is how do you make that transition?
Yeah. And I think this is one thing that really gets missed when we talk about not training people. But for me, I believe it is a mindset shift.
Mm.
One of the things that we talk about a lot in Franklin Covey is about paradigms. And there's this whole see, do, get model. So what you see or how you view something or your paradigm influences what you do or your behavior or your practices. And that influences what you get, the results.
Mm.
So, when you talk about how do we make that shift from being a know-it-all leader to, a learn-it-all type leader, it starts with that mindset that I do have stuff to learn, that I don't know it all. And if I have the mindset that I know it all, then think about what the behavior is that drives.
Right.
Versus if you have the mindset of I have stuff to learn, think about the difference in what your behavior would be. And then the results. So I think it starts in that mindset shift of really shifting from believing that you have to have all the answers to recognizing that others have answers too, and I need to draw that out of them. I need to unleash potential.
Yeah. For me, it's just so interesting. I'm a forever learner. I sign up for things just to learn. If I move into another industry, I'm always learning. So it's very hard for me to even think about people not actually seeking that learning and just I know for the rest of my life I'll be learning, but I've met a lot of people who are not interested in learning more. And I don't understand how you can navigate through corporate America through like that. Like even the life phases that we have, there's
Mm-hmm.
so much to learn. I mean, there's technology that's changing. Like we mentioned, leadership changing. Um, let's talk about micromanaging a little bit. One thing I have learned, when you see people moving into those positions, so let's say middle management, first time managing, they default to micromanaging. Maybe it's a control thing, I don't know. But if you are getting feedback that you are a micromanager, what do you think are a few ways that they can change?
Well, I think if you're getting feedback, I think the first part is going to be humility,
Mm.
and being humble enough to listen, and not with the intent to respond, but really to want to understand what is the behavior that you're exhibiting that people are seeing as micromanaging. And then with that comes to really looking at our intentions.
Mm-hmm.
When we are asking people to do things, when we are exhibiting behaviors that might be perceived as micromanaging, what are our intentions when we're working with people? Do people know what our intentions are? Maybe we're not trying to micromanage at all. Maybe there's something else that's going on, but because there's low trust in the relationship, they're perceiving it as micromanagement. So when people aren't clear what your intentions are, they make it up. And what they make up goes towards whatever their biggest fear is. So, if I have real low trust with you, Vanessa, and you come in and say, hey, good morning, I'm like, wait a minute.
Mm,
What's going on? Am I about to be fired? Why is she asking me how I'm doing? She never talked, So again, it's not even rational what they make up. But if you have to like manage a project really closely for whatever reason, you might share that up front. I'm going to be asking, let's set regular check-ins. You know what? So that way they know, okay, they've already told me up front they're going to be asking for feedback every Friday at 2 or whatever it is, as opposed to it coming across as you don't trust me, you gave it to me, but you won't let it go, all of those things. I think communication is really big, checking your intentions are really big, and also thinking about what do you believe about that person? Do you believe they're capable? Because if you believe they're capable, if we go back to the mindset thing, that will drive what you do. That'll drive the results that you get.
I have to just lift up something you just said. When intentions aren't clear, they make them up. And they make them up based on their biggest fears. We could probably end right there. That is serious, right? If your intentions aren't clear, people will make them up. I think that is in your household with your children. I think
Absolutely.
that is in leadership. I hope you all got that and wrote that down because that definitely stood out to me. Well, this month we are featuring a book called Ego is the Enemy. And there was a quote in there I wanted to lift up. It says, what is rare is not raw talent, skill, or even confidence, but humility, diligence, and self-awareness. Do you agree? Do you think humility and self-awareness in leadership is rare?
Yes. Yes, I think it absolutely is. And I think that when people don't have that humility and they don't have that self awareness, then they don't really understand the impact that they might have on other people. You know, if we think about it, sometimes a leader's style gets in the way of their intent. So maybe they have good intentions, but the way that they deliver it or the package that it comes in kind of just squashes whatever your intent was because it didn't come out very well. So you ever heard somebody say the right thing, but they didn't say it in a way that you want to receive it? It's the same thing in leadership. Your style can get in the way of your intent. And that really then can inhibit, your ability to be successful or to get what you need, out of people or through people.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to take it a step further. Do you think, though, it can be learned? So, if we think that humility and self awareness are rare, do you think it can be learned?
I do. I think if we go back to your idea of talking about being a lifelong learner, I think if people are still open to learn, and I think they absolutely can, because a lot of that, though, is really just pausing and being mindful.
Right, right.
And when we pause and we're mindful, then we do have the opportunity to really ask ourselves the question, okay, what am I thinking and feeling? Why am I thinking and feeling it? Why am I about to say this? Why am I doing that? When we pause and we're mindful. But if we don't pause and give ourselves room or time or space to think about those things, then yeah, I could see it being like a runaway train, right? You just
Right.
kind of keep flowing and going. But I do think it could be learned. I do.
I just took a DISC assessment class, and the positioning was not just for our personality. The positioning was how do we send and receive messages based on our DISC assessment.
Hmm.
I would think I'm a really good communicator, right? But in learning about myself in the DISC assessment, which I think is personality tests are really great, learning about myself, it was something that stood out in the session was you may think you're a great communicator, but if that other person doesn't receive what you're trying to say, then whatever style you just did is out the window. The whole
Right.
point of communication is how the other person receives it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's two-way. It
Two
wasn't a
ways.
monologue.
It is
Right.
not one. And that was a light bulb moment for me. It's like, okay, I have a teenager and we're having a difficult phase of listening. I'm like, maybe I am not actually reaching them. I'm not giving the message in the way that he likes to receive. So, of
Hmm.
course, my whole family's getting ready to do personality tests because I need to know. But
Yeah. Put them all through it. It's enlightening. It really is good.
yes.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I thought we could play a little game. I'm
Oh
going to
boy.
say a scenario. You ready?
Okay. All right.
I'm going to share a few scenarios, and you'll respond in either an ego-led response or humility-led response. And I'll tell you which way to respond.
Okay.
Okay. All right. The CEO congratulated you for completing a major project in the all staff company meeting, but you actually did not do any of the work on the project. How would you respond if you were ego-led? This may be hard for you because you're not ego-led.
Well, I'm still patting myself on the back, so maybe I didn't hear the whole. I would probably say, you know what? Thank you. Thank you very much. It really was, it was challenging. There was a lot that went into that, but I'm glad that it worked out. So thank you. And mind you, I'm not giving anybody any credit. I'm just going to
Right.
say thank you. I
Oh.
appreciate that.
Okay.
While my whole team rolls their eyes.
They are chatting. They are sending text
They're
messages.
texting, right. Throwing daggers, all kind of stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
I love it. Okay, next one. That was great. You make a mistake that costs the company money. When asked what happened, you say and answer in a humility-led way.
You know what? I own that. I completely own it, take responsibility, and I'm really interested in not, making the same mistake again. So would you be willing to give me some additional feedback that I can maybe leverage so I don't end up in this situation again?
Ah, that was good.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. You receive negative feedback from a review from your team. Respond in an ego-led way.
Mm, well, I'm not quite sure what you all are talking about. Like I can explain this situation. Like in this situation, if she didn't do such and such, I wouldn't have done XYZ. And that's why that happened. So I can probably explain the situations. I don't get it. I don't know where you're coming from.
Oh,
So I think maybe all of us need to do assessments. And I want to give a 360 on everybody here too.
no, you scared me a little bit. Listen, I've heard that before.
Mm, I
And
don't know where you're coming from. Where is this coming from? I've heard all of it. Mm-mm.
that pause. Thank you so much for playing the game with me. And thank you so much for this interview. I think this has been very helpful for everyone that's listening. Subscribers, if you have anything stood out to you, please in the comments post it so that we can respond. I think it's super important that we take the time. You mentioned pausing. We are open to change. And for some of you watching it, our banter back and forth may be funny, but those scenarios are true, right? And we've seen those scenarios play out. I've seen a manager say something so crazy to some of my coworkers before. And I really believe that their intent was good. They just didn't have the communication skills and maybe ego led. So, hope that this was helpful for those who are listening. But thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Now, how can our subscribers find you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn under Andrea Caldwell. I think it's under my personal email, andreacaldwell03@gmail.com. So you can find me out there and I'd be happy to connect with anyone.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we link her LinkedIn in the bio and in the comment section as well. Any last words for our subscribers before we get out of here?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? There is a great quote out of the book by Dolly Chugg. It's called "The Person You Mean to Be." And there's a great quote. I think she's actually quoting somebody else in the story when she shares it. But it says, "We need to be willing to own our impact regardless of our intent."
Ooh.
So I think, if we are humble and we don't have egos as leaders, if we do hear that we've negatively impacted someone, even if that wasn't our intention, being willing to own that and being willing to listen and to hear it. So I'll just end with that.
Wow, that was amazing. I'm gonna try to make sure I write it in the description because that was amazing. Because we do have to own, regardless, we're human, we're gonna make the mistakes, but we do
Right.
own that impact. And my friend says to me all the time, it is your responsibility the way that someone experience is with you.
Right.
We have to
Right.
be more aware of that. I've been guilty of not being aware at times. So again, thank you so much. I really
Thank you.
we'll have to bring you back. So we have to talk about middle management and some leadership. But again, thank you
Sure.
so much for being here.
Thank you.